All right, let's talk about the first big decision you're going to make if you're new to Medicare. We talked about the real risk of Medicare by itself. And we have people all the time who are like, look, I'm healthy. I never go to the doctor. Maybe I'll just have Medicare. Maybe even just Part A for the hospital side, like a hospital only plan. The problem with Medicare by itself is that 20% coinsurance. There's no cap to that. It can go on indefinitely. If you have a $100,000 bill, you're on the hook for $20,000. If you have a $500,000 bill, boom, 100K is your share of that. It makes zero sense to have that risk, especially when there are options that might address it for no cost. So that brings up our first real decision if we're new to Medicare: Medicare Advantage versus Medicare Supplements. Both of those wrap around that 20% risk on Medicare, and they do it in different ways. And we have a whole video series on this because it's more in depth and we really need to get into it. But here's the nuts and bolts of it. The Advantage plans primarily are HMOs, or at least the ones that are priced well. There are PPO versions of them that we see and use sometimes, but for the most part, they're HMOs. That means they're more constrained in terms of the doctors and hospitals you can see, in terms of how healthcare is managed. It's going to be more restrictive in terms of care. There's more say-so by the insurance carrier, essentially. And then there are Medicare supplements or Medigap plans. Those work more like PPOs, where you can see any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare anywhere in the country. And then decisions are more made between you and your doctor. And so you have more flexibility, more control, but there's a higher monthly cost to that. That's the real trade-off. It's kind of a cost versus control and flexibility decision. Again, we have a whole review on this, but the key thing is they both contain or cap that 20% exposure. So we definitely want to have something that wraps around, especially if some of the Advantage plans might be zero cost monthly. At least have that if the monthly cost is an issue with the supplements. That's our first decision: Advantage versus Medicare Supplement. We'll have a link to the full review for you on that, and we have a lot of information across the website on the pros and cons of both, because not one is a good fit for every person. It depends on your situation.